This is Talking Hardcore, the podcast for people who love hardcore history.
You study history because it allows us to understand the present and prepare for the future.
I'm not trolling.
And I love it.
I'm
I'm here
just
for
pointing out where they're wrong.
The Talking Hardcore podcast is presented by Ace Industrial Solutions. Are you in need of skilled trade professionals for your next project? Look no further. Specializing in commercial and industrial buildouts, floor coatings and coverings, high-speed concrete polish, floor cleaning, shot blasting, painting, energy efficiency, and pallet racking. With a proven track record of excellence, they have become the industry leader. To find out more, please check the link in the description.
Okay. Hi, everybody,
This is Talking Hardcore
with George.
and Scott.
Today we're here to talk about episode 15 of Hardcore History,
Desperate times?
Desperate Times.
Desperate times.
It's a pretty damn good one.
It's fantastic.
Yep. And don't forget to check the link in our description for the presenting sponsor, Ace Industrial Solutions.
Good guys.
Owner's kind of an ass, but otherwise it's pretty good.
Whatever he says.
Yeah. But there's also a link in the description to the Discord channel. We started a new book club event. It's going to happen in a few weeks. We are reading the
What are we reading again?
the Executioner's Guide or the Executioner's Journey or something like that.
Guide to the Galaxy?
No, I can't look it up because my phone's recording this. But
All right, I'll look it up.
but I've started it. It's fascinating. It's about an executioner in Nuremberg, Germany, in the 1600s, who literally took a detailed notes of his whole career, and then this author found it and made a book out of it. So far, it's pretty freaking great. So anyway, you can check that out. Sign up to come to that event on the Discord channel. Talking Hardcore. Well, the Discord channel is Hardcore History. There's a Talking Hardcore chat there. There's also a book club event stage you can go to. Again, links in the description. Is that your phone?
Why the hell's my phone making that noise?
Is it your phone?
Yeah. I don't know why.
Oh, because you went into the book club stage
Yeah.
on Discord.
Oh.
That's what happens. It's got the music. Just leave the stage. You got to go to the Talking Hardcore chat in the Discord, and you can look back and see. Anyway, it's an executioner's book that Dan mentioned in, I think, at least one podcast, maybe two. You got to leave the stage. It doesn't do you any good to be on the book club
I
stage.
turned it off.
Okay, good enough.
No, I turned it off. I closed Discord and it's still playing.
Yeah. Yeah, it did that to me once, I think. Anyway.
How do I leave the stage? Do this. I don't know.
Well, you got a dumb Android.
Well, you're a dumb android. Why don't you give me the dumb... Why don't you just give me the android voice?
You're not allowed to have voices. You already do real voices. Come on, keep the people entertained.
All right, anyway.
The Faithful Executioner.
The Faithful Executioner.
The Faithful.
Okay, that didn't stop.
Oh, that's not what I was going for. Here we go. The Faithful Executioner. You hit it.
The Faithful Executioner.
Holy shit.
That's bad. That's real bad. You got a fucking dart in your neck.
Okay, I better turn that off before people start having nightmares.
No, that's from...
I know, but I'm saying you're going to give people nightmares anyway.
What are you doing?
I'm trying to shut this off.
Give me the phone. Give me the phone. I'll fix it. It's not working.
Yeah, turn your phone off.
Here we go. Okay, Discord app. So, the first thing I want to talk about...
Okay, so Hardcore History episode 15, Desperate Times.
Yep.
In this episode, we got to lay the groundwork and then you can take over.
Yep.
In this episode, Dan goes through basically his thoughts on the Great Depression, and this is really the beginning of, in the Hardcore History annals, of Dan talking about how hard times make for hard men.
Yep.
Okay. And it becomes kind of a theme. I think you see him reference back to that a lot throughout the series of Hardcore History episodes,
For sure.
and understandably so. Right.
For sure.
All right, Scott, take us away.
All right. So, the first question, and I think this is the most relevant to modern times. How do you think society would react tomorrow? American society would react tomorrow if 50% of the population hit the poverty line like the 1930s America did during the Great Depression.
Yeah, but it didn't happen overnight.
You're right. It didn't happen overnight.
It's tough to compare that. So do you mean literally like overnight, or do you mean let's pretend like 1929 happened? No,
Well-
October, what is it? 29th, 1929, or
yeah, but
happened right now.
Sure, like a huge stock market crash tomorrow.
And then unemployment soars to over 25%.
Yep.
All of those things, right?
And then 50% of over the following years, 50% of the American population's at the poverty line.
Yeah. I mean, I think we would react basically the same way.
So the thing that Dan doesn't talk about is like labor strikes,
Right.
lots of unrest, like social unrest.
There was a lot of social unrest before that.
Sure.
Like they talk
but
about
you were at the Roaring 20s.
Yeah, but okay. You talk about the Roaring 20s,
Yeah.
but they were only roaring compared to the Depression afterwards and the World War I beforehand.
Yep.
There was all kinds of anarchy. Remember, there was bombing attempts and stuff like what in 1919, 1920. Like there
Sure.
was communism was spreading.
That's social unrest, but at least the economy was good.
Right.
I mean, the American economy was great. We came out of the World War I the best. We were selling Europe our goods. We were making lots of money on Europe rebuilding after World War I. And then,
Well, if the economy was going that well, there probably wouldn't have been as much social unrest.
no,
Because
there
it was
different
labor
ideas.
stuff,
No,
but-
it's the same thing now. Like things are, if you look at today, like modern, like
I see what you're saying.
modern American economy, things are well prior to COVID, things were going great.
Yeah.
But now you're seeing a lot of the woke agenda. You're seeing a lot of communists and socialists and people
Right.
that are advocating, even if things are good, they're still advocating for systems that they think that are better.
Well, because humans don't do well accepting that the status quo is the best.
Sure.
Certain percentage. I shouldn't say all humans. A certain percentage. And that makes sense evolutionary wise, right?
Well-
Constantly on the lookout for danger is how you survive in nature,
Sure.
right? And so there's more of an incentive to see danger where there's not, also evolutionary wise, because the cost of trying to dodge danger that's not there is way less than not dodging danger that is there.
Sure. But I think anybody can agree that I'm going to even just say the traditional or old school value of financial stability is the best place to be, at least in modern society.
Right, but I don't know that that was ever the predominant value.
Sure, it was.
How do
But
you know?
People were miserly and frugal.
The people
I mean,
who
the
survived
people-
the Great Depression.
The people that grew up during the Great Depression
Right.
were miserly and frugal.
But that's not like a traditional value. It was a value for that generation.
Sure, because of the Great
Right.
Depression.
But like there was extravagance in the 1920s.
sure.
Right. So it's not like I think this is one of the things where Neil Howell gets it right on things like this, right?
Okay.
That kind of shit is cyclical,
Sure.
right?
Oh, I'm not going to disagree.
Right.
But
So I don't look at that as a traditional value. I think that is a thing that becomes important at certain points in the cycle of generations.
well, if
And
you're,
we are not at one of those points. We're at a point where it will be soon, maybe. But right now, credit has never been as high. Americans, not the government, have never had as much credit out as they have right now.
is that adjusted for inflation?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is.
Pretty sure is not an accurate answer.
We'd have to double check, but think about it. I bet it is.
Well, some of us have a bunch of debt. Because debt was cheap.
Right. Okay. But
now it's not
the
cheap anymore.
available credit is more than any time besides maybe the last 50 years.
Sure.
Right. Just because of the amount of wealth that's available.
I don't think that's wealth. Credit is
No,
not wealth.
No, the lending of it. Right. So there's
Well, when
money,
the government's
the
printing
banks-
money,
Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't call that wealth.
No, but
That's inflationary wealth. That's
Right.
not actual wealth.
sure. Okay.
But anyway, that's my point.
Right.
How do you think, circling back, how do you think society would react? Do you think we'd see a lot more communists? Do you think we'd see a lot more socialists?
I don't think we'd see more communists because I think there's already a whole bunch of people that are communist.
Sure, but
And I don't know that would happen. I think things would get hard like they did in the Depression, and people would be forced to toughen up.
yeah, sure.
Right. So I saw this.
I mean, but toughening up can be bomb-throwing Bolsheviks as well.
Yeah. But in America, it never got that bad.
Sure, maybe not.
Right.
Anyway, sorry to...
No, it's okay. I saw this clip, and I think it was Sean Ryan podcast, a clip from that. Okay, so we all know the expression, Dan's mentioned it before, right? Hard times make hard men. Hard men make easy times. Easy times make soft men. Soft men make hard times. What Sean Ryan said is, hard times don't make hard men. Hard times make us value hard men.
Okay.
They're always there. It's just we don't listen to them. We don't need them. So they get ignored or taken for granted until we need them.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably a little bit of both. I think it's easier to be soft when times are easy.
Well, sure.
So there's be a higher percentage of soft people when things are easy because it's easier. But there's always people that are more inclined to be tough, right? Just so we don't keep saying hard 1,000 times, right?
Yeah.
There's always going to be people that are more inclined to be tough than other people who aren't.
But then those are the guys. I mean, those are the people that you're going to look. You're going to look to. So you're going to honestly.
Yes, that's the point.
So if there
The
is
cream will rise to the top.
sure, but so if there is an economic downturn, which the U.S. is way past due for.
Yeah, but we keep artificially avoiding it.
Well, that just means it's going to be worse when
Maybe.
when the shoe finally falls.
Maybe. Or maybe we keep
You
ducking
can't
it.
spend your way out of a recession or depression. We've learned that. You can't spend your way out of it.
But it's not just spending that they're doing.
You can only prolong. Well, it is.
No, so economists will tell you, I think at least some will tell you that you can do things to lessen the impact. Like they will tell you that the Great Depression happened. If we knew now what we knew then, we would be able to avoid the Great Depression because there are methods to keep it from getting that bad. And so maybe that's what we're going through.
Yeah, but Dan even talks about that too. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, they're so stupid. It's hindsight's 2020.
Yes.
And we don't know for 100% fact
Right.
that our economy, the way it's being ran now, isn't gonna have a domino effect in the next 5 to 10 years.
Right.
Or 2 years. You don't know. Could be 2 years. Could be next year.
100% accurate. I'm not saying that, but it also could be not. There is a chance, and I don't know if this is true or not, but there is a chance that the Great Depression will go down as the last Great Depression.
I don't think so.
I don't either. I'm just saying it's possible.
You
It's possible.
if you have a number of, like Elon Musk, they're just when Xi Jinping was around, Xi Jinping, Elon Musk was there at the dinner, at the estate dinner, and he's like, oh, I'd like to talk to Xi, and I only spoke with him briefly or met him briefly before, and then the reporter asked him about U.S.-Chinese relations, and he's like, well, for prosperity and progress, we should get along and we should work together. But you could watch Elon, and what he was saying was so measured because Tesla's going into the Chinese market as well.
oh yeah, they have a factory there.
Yeah, so he's literally measuring everything he says
100%.
so he doesn't bite him in the ass.
But he also, I listened to him on Lex.
Yep.
That was a good interview. And he said some things that I thought were interesting. When he compared China and the U.S. Historical comparisons.
I didn't get to that part yet. So.
It's good. One of the things he mentioned is that historically, China is very inward facing,
Sure.
and they don't go out making war,
Okay.
which who knows if that's going to continue. And he said it seems like probably Taiwan would be the one issue where they do, because they consider that part of China.
Okay.
But if you think about it, that should be something that reassures us. Because as soon as he said that, I was like, well, no shit. He's
Well,
100% right, though.
Yeah, but that doesn't
When
mean.
did the Chinese ever go conquering?
Excuse me. But that doesn't mean. Well,
No, they kept getting conquered
sure.
over and over
Well,
and over again. The Mongols, the Scythians, or not the Scythians, the Xiongnu, and all of those.
Yeah, but they also had a lot of infighting as well within
Sure.
China. So
Sure, but they never went out and made an empire,
no.
right? As far as I can tell from history. Now, that doesn't mean that the same people are there now, right? It just means that is something that I never thought of in that context, and I found to be an interesting point worth thinking about.
Yeah, I never thought about that either, to be completely honest with you. I mean, I don't
Right.
know enough about Chinese history, and it's actually a huge gaping hole in my historical knowledge.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, man.
I mean, you had so many dynasties. Well, what do those? And like I said, I'm ignorant. So
So if somebody knows like a good podcast or audiobook that could give us a kind of breakdown of Chinese history for layman's, not a history class way, so it's enjoyable in an
Yeah.
audiobook format.
I mean,
throw it
something-
in the discussion in the chat on the Talking Hardcore, please.
yeah, I mean something like that says, okay, you had a united China under the Song
I want a
dynasty.
Dan Carlin version of the history of China.
That would be wonderful.
Somebody that does a close approximation of that. So hit the highlights, keep it fast, keep it interesting. Do not get caught up in dates.
No, tell
Right.
us about the wars.
If anybody knows any of that stuff or a good place for that, please throw it in the description or the Talking Hardcore chat, because that is exactly true for me too.
Or we just
And
found.
I think
we
it's true
found
for
a new-
most Americans.
Or maybe Dan will listen to this, or somebody will listen to it and say, "Hey, Dan, we want this."
Think about how much reading he would have to do.
Dan already does a ton of reading.
Yeah, but like, it's hard because until fairly recently, I just don't think you could have that much information. They weren't translating those books to English. So it's like starting from scratch.
Ancient Chinese history to present. Boom.
Well, you definitely couldn't have a hardcore history for that. I mean, that shit would be the next 20 years.
That's okay. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, he could put it just like he did with the Mongols. I know that was not as long as China's been around.
That was a long time ago, and that was 100 years basically he spanned.
Yeah,
And it
but-
took him 5 episodes.
He could do it by dynasty.
He's not going to do that.
He could
That's
do the
not
same
his
thing
style.
for Japan too.
But that's not his style,
I
right?
know.
So I just mean something that's similar to that. But anyway,
Yeah.
I found that to be an interesting way to think about China that I had not thought of before.
Well, they are inward facing until they think they're threatened. Like, look at Korea. When the U.S. went into Korea, I mean, the U.S. was rocking
And how
it.
long ago? How long after? Sorry to interrupt. That's a good point. But that was what, 30 years after they were invaded by Japan,
No.
Korea,
Yeah, Korea was like 55.
right? And they were invaded by Japan in like the 20s.
Well, yeah, okay, fair
so
enough.
I'm saying it's close to that, right? So
I was thinking end of World War II. It was 10 years after roughly 10 years after
right,
World War II.
but they were fighting that shit well before anybody else.
Well, it wasn't until we got close to China until China decided to back North Korea.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So it's like you could see why they may have been a little bit because look at how many times they've been invaded. You get back to what happened with Russia. How many times did somebody rule China or somebody's family rule China because they got conquered
Yeah, well,
or parts of China, right?
Russian paranoia's the same.
Right.
How many times has Russia been invaded?
Invaded, yes, but not conquered.
Not conquered, but invaded.
That's the interesting thing when you compare
Russia was too big.
China's pretty damn big.
Not as big as Russia.
More people.
Yeah, but that just means
I think
more.
I think part of it was that they were a little bit further from the really crazy steppe people, so Russia got a little more time. Like the heart of Russia, Moscow, Kiev, they had to deal with some of that, right? But not as long as the Chinese did.
Sure.
And I think that's because the heart of the steppe is much more further east. And by the time the peoples got pushed out all the way to the west, they'd been tamed a little bit or cooked.
I don't think they were cooked at all.
I think they were cooked a little bit more because that's why they got pushed out. Because they weren't as tough as the people that were pushing them out. So it's like the circle of toughness gets weaker and weaker as you get further from the heart of the steppe. Well, think about it.
Yeah, but Genghis had generals go all the way out to the Middle East.
Yes. But he was the high watermark.
We'll call it West Asia.
Right, but he was the high watermark. Okay? But before that, right? When they weren't all lined up on the same side, what would happen, right? A tribe would get the middle of where the womb of nations, right?
Yep.
They would get too populous and need more space and spread out. And those people were the most savage. So they'd force the people next to them further out.
Yep.
Who'd then force the less savage people more
Next to
further
them,
out.
further out.
So it got less and less savage as you got further away from the center. So Russia was further away from that center of where the real savage bastards lived than China was.
I would agree with you, but
We'll just stop there. I would agree with you, George.
Under the cons,
Again, when they would align, then the rules would go out the window. Okay.
well, you're still being
only
attacked
happened.
you're still being attacked by the most savage then.
Right, but that only happened once in a while.
Okay, back to the Great Depression. We've gone from the Great Depression to Genghis Khan to China and Genghis Khan
Right.
in
So
like 15
yeah,
minutes.
how did we get to China?
Elon Musk.
Right. Anyway,
Yeah.
that was an interesting take. I do think that we would all have to get tougher.
You want to toss the American economy? Trade with China. It would completely sink our economy. If trade with China tomorrow went to zero, China would also hurt themselves, but we would be hurt just as much.
Why?
Because we would have to figure out how to make stuff here.
Right.
Overnight.
So it would be what? Like a couple bad years and then we'd be fine.
Well, a couple bad years and then a couple bad years to ramp up and then maybe we'd be pulling out into spring. So it'd be I would say at least 5 to 10 years. Shit doesn't get built that quick, bud. Takes 2 years.
You need to remember what can happen when things get that bad. Look at
But
World
there's
War
no
II.
money to invest, if there's no money to invest, George,
we have so many resources here. There is no worry about that. All that would have to happen is we would have to think of it like a war. Look at what happened in World War II. When they told Hitler the estimates for what America could produce, all right, they laughed. Hitler laughed. And what were they? They were low.
That was the height of the Industrial Revolution.
No, man.
We're
we
not there.
amped up like crazy
We're
to
not
do
there.
that.
We
look
had
at,
wait
okay,
a minute.
okay.
No,
so
no,
look at the
no,
Soviet
you're
Union.
looking at it wrong.
No, look
You're
at the
looking
Soviet
at it
Union.
wrong.
Stalin moved factories out to frickin' Siberia, and then kept making tanks.
But you're looking at it wrong. You had a surplus of population not doing anything. We do not have a surplus.
The hell we don't.
We don't have a surplus of population not doing anything.
The hell we don't.
No,
There's 10 million men who voluntarily don't work between the ages of 19 and 49. That's surplus as hell. Right?
That's
Dude, there
of the
is
workforce?
Yeah.
That's not even 10%.
That's a lot.
I'm just saying.
That's a lot.
it's
And
not
then
even
we would
10%
just
of the
shift
workforce.
away from other things too, dude. It would
So,
work fine.
The only way...
I think it would be 2 years.
No, you're wrong.
Because
I'm telling
when-
you're wrong.
When you go, okay, so if we went to war, that's what would happen.
Do you know how I know you're wrong?
No.
So, if tomorrow okay? If I want to have a plant, a manufacturing plant to manufacture whatever, let's say a washing machine,
Right.
it takes months of planning, where things are going to go, where the electrical's going to go. Months.
It takes months right now.
And then to order things,
you
but then
know
those
why?
things have to be made. So what happens when we need pallet racking and there's no pallet racking made in the country?
Oh.
So then you have to start a pallet racking plant.
No, you
I
don't.
Mean, the supply
We get
chain,
creative. We
the
get
supply-
creative.
The supply chain. If trade stopped tomorrow with China, the supply chain would take years to catch up. Years.
Yeah, I don't think 10. I don't even think 5.
It'd be 10 years before we're off and running.
Everybody else in the world would amp up too.
Maybe.
Anybody that could see value, okay, well, hey, I can make this one thing and sell that to the Americans. I better fucking make that one thing and sell that to the Americans.
But then prices go up.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not saying this would be easy, and I'm not even saying we should do this. You pose this hypothetical,
Sure.
which I don't even know how this necessarily relates to the topic yet, but
No, that would put us into a depression. That's what I'm trying to say. If China said we're not trading with you anymore, United States, as of tomorrow, they don't care about their people. They could do that.
yeah, but they also like being rich. The ones in charge like being rich.
Sure.
And they would stop being as rich.
They still. It doesn't matter as rich. They're still rich.
Way less rich.
Well,
Because then maybe we also start fucking assassinating people. And then rich isn't great if you're dead.
that's true.
So it would really be a short-sighted move, and I don't worry about that at all. They're not stupid. That's a mutually assured destruction issue, really. There's no difference between that and nukes.
My issue is, George, there's no way, in my opinion, that the American economy can keep the way it's going. We can't just ramp back up, okay? It can't keep on the trajectory it's on and stay good.
Right.
We have to have a recession. We have to have, God forbid we ever have a depression. We need a little slow period.
We've been in a slow period. We've had slow periods. We had the Great Recession in 2008.
Yeah, but I think, and then what'd they do?
I don't
they
think
printed.
recessions help. I think you're acting like the recession would fix things. It doesn't fix things.
Well, if
what
you
got
want
us
10,
out of the
if you
Great
want
Depression?
10 million people to get back to work.
No, but what got us out of the Great Depression?
World War II.
Yeah, not the Depression. It didn't fix shit. Okay? It didn't fix anything. The Great Depression caused a lot of the problems that we have today still now,
Sure,
right?
sure.
And yet you think the 10 million people would get back to work? No. If it was a depression, what you'd have is 20% of the people unemployed.
Yeah.
Okay, so then less people are to work. And then what happens? More social welfare programs. Because if you don't do those, then you have revolution.
Then you have crime and you have,
Revolution.
or just a bunch of crime. And then a bunch of dead people.
I just don't want revolution.
Well, I don't either. But anyway, I mean,
So that was one thing that came up in this podcast that I hadn't thought about before until I listened to this podcast. I think you and I both agree that a lot of the programs from the New Deal that FDR put in place kind of cause a lot of the problems we have now.
sure. Who's the, who's the largest employer in the United States?
We looked this up twice. It's Amazon.
No, it's the federal government.
No.
100% it's the
How
federal
do you
government.
not remember this?
It's the federal government.
No. We looked this up on a podcast. I think it was episode 3. And you looked this up and you're like, oh, it's Walmart.
I'm telling
and then
you, it's
it was
the federal
Amazon.
government.
And federal government's like third. Right. And you've said this again on the podcast, and I didn't correct you that time because you looked this up on an episode of the podcast.
No, it's the federal government.
It's not.
It is.
You looked it up.
I was wrong.
No.
Walmart employs 22.3 million people.
Okay. And how many does the federal government employ? Not 22 million.
I'm sure. No, 2.3 million.
Okay. Not even that many.
I'm sure more.
No. You looked this up already. It makes me feel good that your memory's even as shitty as mine.
It actually is 2.87 million federal employees.
Okay, I'm gonna
That's
find
more
the
than
episode.
Amazon.
I'm gonna
That's more than Amazon.
Okay.
So the federal government is the largest employer in the United States.
Okay. Maybe
I'm sorry, 2.87?
we're going to have to look up why you said the opposite on the podcast before.
I don't know why.
because you said this and then we looked it up and then you said no. Maybe it's Walmart employs more people worldwide. And so they were giving you the biggest employer in the country. I don't know. It's irrelevant.
And here's one. In 2022, around 19.23 million people were working for state and local governments in the United States.
Okay.
But this is federal government only, 2.87 million.
Right. Yeah, that's crazy. Listen, but what I was going to say is, one of the things I didn't really think about much until I listened to this episode of Hardcore History the first time years ago. He starts talking about Huey Long.
Yep.
And you think about,
Kingfish.
well, you start thinking about all the other things that could have happened if they didn't put in those New Deal policies. So the New Deal may have just been a deal with the devil, but it may have been necessary to avoid Stalinism.
Sure. So the old saying of you give the population a little bit of socialism to avoid.
Right. And maybe that's what FDR did.
Yep. Gave everybody a little.
But it doesn't
socialism.
change the fact that we're still dealing with a lot of the negative consequences of that kind of bloated federal power.
Sure. Well, so here's an issue that since we're on that topic, I really don't care for a politician calling Social Security or Medicare or Medicaid entitlements, because it's not an entitlement. It's an shit.
What I would tell you is Social Security, the way I always looked at it is they paid that money.
Yeah, exactly. You
They
paid
paid
into
into
the
it.
program. You paid into an
It's an
annuity.
annuity.
It's an annuity.
Yeah.
So if I
I don't know about Medicare, but Social Security for sure.
No, you pay into Medicare too.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
And
you're right.
Medicaid. So
Right.
it's not an entitlement if you
Right.
pay for it.
Right. I agree with that.
I mean, I don't think any politician.
That's the difference between that and like a welfare.
For sure. Yeah, you didn't pay into welfare. You just get it.
And then I've been listening to Rubicon, and you hear a lot of the things that the Roman politicians who were the populari were doing to gain power. And you're like, shit, man. It's the same damn thing.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Give to the masses, however much you can give to the masses,
Just give them whatever they want,
and then they'll vote you in.
and they'll vote you in. And then you don't leave.
Yeah,
Yeah. But that's why a written constitution is important,
correct.
right?
Well, and people, and let me ask you a question, because this is an interesting subject that I've actually dived down the rabbit hole on. Who's dumber? The person that works their ass off their entire life, or the person that lives off government assistance their entire life?
You're asking the wrong question.
No, I'm not.
It's not dumber.
It is dumber.
I don't think either one of them is dumb by default. I would need more facts.
Okay.
What you're saying is which is a better. What you're trying to say is which is the more prudent attitude, more prudent route to take.
Sure. I
And-
mean, either way, you're going to be broke.
No, if you work your ass off the whole life, you're probably not going to be broke.
You might not. You could still be broke.
Most people who work hard are not broke.
Sure. But some people who work hard are.
And typically, the people
Wait a
who
minute.
work hard
You're
and
also
are broke are usually low IQ.
there. That's the problem.
Right. And that sucks.
Yep.
But everybody's different.
For sure.
So I would say that I don't think it's dumb to work hard.
No, it's not dumb to work hard.
And I don't think it's dumb to also value different things besides money.
You know what though? Anybody. I don't know how to phrase this, but
Well, do you want me to flesh out what I was saying a little more before you answer it?
sure.
Okay. So what I mean is, I think it's good that there are people who are super driven and competitive that end up being CEOs of companies.
Yep.
I think it's good. But I also think it's good that most people aren't that driven and competitive. And
For
most
sure.
people are happy to just make a good living, provide for their family, and go on about their lives
Sure.
and have a work-life balance.
I agree with that.
I do think that is a good thing,
Well, you can't have hyper ambitious. It's just, then it would be Rome all over again.
but worse.
Yeah, but worse.
Because again, still that was just a small subset of the population,
Yep. Well,
right? It really was.
You had a lot of
No.
hyper ambitious people in the Roman system.
Yeah, because the system was designed to make.
Hyper ambitious people.
But even then, if you consider a lot, what percentage of the population of Rome was it? It was low. Let's say Rome had 50, 100,000 people. And how many senators were there? A couple hundred, right? And then again, of those, how many were that driven? Probably 50,
Yeah.
right? If you're just guessing here. And really, Rome was probably well over that. So it was a small percentage.
Yeah.
And I think that's good for human nature. Those small percentage of people, when harnessed correctly, can do great things that push everybody further along in humanity. We all do better if we can harness that productivity and creativity,
Yeah.
right? That's what works great about humans. All right? But when the ambition becomes unfunneled, unchained, that's where it can go off the rails. That's
Sure.
what happened at the end of the Roman Republic.
Yep.
But that's
Well,
not
yeah, but
what's happening now.
there were hundreds of years that led up to the fall of the Roman Republic.
Right.
So, I mean, you're just,
And there was more and more cracks in the checks on that ambition.
but you're only seeing the notable hyper ambitious people. You're
Right.
not seeing the day-to-day 4,000 hyper ambitious people all scrabbling to get to the top. Nobody says anything about those people because they're not of note. So you only see who made it to the top, who was the top of the cream.
That's a good point. But it's still a small percentage.
Sure.
Right, but that's a good point.
But you could watch, I mean, a good series.
That's the nature of history.
A good series for that, George, if you're ever interested in kind of like a Game of Thrones-esque type TV show.
Death Throes of the Republic.
It would be Spartan.
Well, that wouldn't be about Rome.
No, but it was that Spartacus? Spartacus.
Spartacus.
Yeah.
That would be about Rome.
Yeah, but it actually shows like the guy that runs all of his gladiators and he trains them, and then like how the Roman, what we can assume how their lifestyle was and the parties he'd throw and
Right.
him vying for power and
Oh,
anyway,
yeah. I mean,
it's
you read Death
it's a
Throes
TV
and
show.
you see that, though, right? And
Yeah.
Rubicon goes over a lot of that, too. How did Caesar gain a lot of his power was just living above his means, too. Like,
Yep.
that was part of what you had to do there.
Spend, spend, spend.
It's a
And then-
wild. It's a wild time.
And then go on campaign and take a bunch of slaves. Win and take a bunch of slaves.
Yeah, if you lose, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, well, then you're dead.
Yeah.
So anyway, once again, we are way off the topic of the Great Depression.
But hard times.
Yep.
It's not just. So that was my thought, though, was that FDR was making a deal with the devil,
Yep.
and we're still dealing with the consequences. But if he hadn't, maybe we would all be communists.
So
Well, we wouldn't still be here. Maybe, but I mean, it could have easily been a fascist takeover too.
well, one thing that I found interesting about that subject, or when Dan was talking about it, is like urban families sending their kids out to fight over like the fancy paper the fruit was wrapped in. Mm-hmm. Well, I remember a story my grandfather told me because he grew up in the Great Depression.
Here,
as well.
let me put a sound effect on. Go ahead.
No, this is not the right one.
Okay.
No, we're not doing this either.
Why don't we just skip the sound effects?
Oh, this is a good one. Do this one.
So, my grandfather and his brother.
Sal, stop it.
I'm going to take your privileges away.
You can't.
Yeah, your white privilege card has been taken.
Good. I never had any anyway.
So
I'm
anyway,
tanner than you, bitch.
yeah. Anyway, so my grandfather and his brother Sal.
Hey, where's the fucking hat, by the way?
It's at the office.
God damn it.
Anyway, so my grandfather and his brother Sal.
If you don't bring it next episode, I'm kicking
I
you
will
in the
bring
nuts.
it next time, and I'll even talk like a Texan if you want me to.
I do.
Okay. So anyway,
Yeah, tell the story like a Texan.
no, I'm not telling the story.
Do
like a Texan.
it. Okay.
I'm not.
Tell it with a Mexican accent because it's from your grandpa.
I'm not going to do it. My grandpa sounded complete. His English was perfect. His Spanish was amazing because the Jesuits like really drilled in appropriate grammar.
I want to hear you tell the story with an accent.
No, I'm not doing it. So My grandfather.
I need a
and-
boo button on this thing.
Yeah, I think you got one.
I don't see a boo one. Go ahead though.
Anyway, so what they would do. There you go. Perfect. So the movie theaters would take garbage bags and they would throw out the popcorn from the previous night in the dumpster, but it would be in a garbage bag.
Sure.
So my grandpa and his brother used to go dumpster diving, grab the bag out.
Yeah, but this was like 10 years ago.
No. Shit, man, kiss my ass. So, what they would do is they'd get like a bag of a bunch of brown paper bags and they'd fill them with popcorn. And they would go around and sell the stale day-old popcorn on the street for a nickel a piece.
Smart.
And that's how they brought money home.
Yeah.
So they would run around all day selling stale popcorn to people walking down the street for a nickel. Yep.
Hustling.
He said the bags would cost a penny, and then they would sell the popcorn for 4 cents. So they'd make 4 cents on a bag.
Different times.
I mean, what are you gonna do?
Right. Hey, man.
I mean, it was smart.
Better than that going to waste.
Yeah, better than that. But the movie theater didn't care. They still threw it out.
Day old popcorn tastes good.
Yeah, it was a little stale. The old popcorn still tastes a little stale. Nobody needs to know about the 2 week
No, if
old
it's
popcorn.
hot, if it's warm though, all you gotta do to freshen it up is get it out in the sun a little bit, or under one of those heat lamp bulbs, and then it tastes better than it did when you first popped it.
Probably.
No, I mean I've done it.
Oh, so they.
So anyway,
Yeah, that was one of the stories
that's
he
the
told
thing.
me.
So desperate times. It seems like we're probably getting ripe for those desperate times because it's funny because you listen to this episode and he's talking about the trash shows that he watched with his wife and he's like, oh shit,
Jersey Shore.
dude, imagine how much worse it is now than the trash he watched with his wife when that episode aired in like 2010.
Yeah.
Now
Jersey
it's
Shore was really
Real
trashy.
Housewives.
That's really trashy.
Dude.
Wait a minute. That's reality TV. That's no different than Jersey Shore.
It's
Jersey Shore was
way
reality
shittier. My wife watches it. I can't be in the same floor of the house because it's trash.
Well, of course.
It's faked garbage nonsense. They're fighting about it's women that have so much plastic surgery they don't look real.
Yep.
Fighting about the dumbest shit.
Sure.
Okay? It is so much worse than what reality TV was like in 2010.
You think the real world
Yes. Not as dumb.
was no, it
Yes.
was way dumber.
No.
No, it was way dumber.
Dude, go watch an episode of Real Housewives.
Yeah.
It's
No,
not close.
No. Go watch an episode
Do you
of
realize
The
that
Real
they'll do a
World.
whole episode about like, oh, she didn't come to my birthday party, so I'm done talking to that bitch.
Yeah.
And it's all faked.
They
Anyway,
haven't-
it's scripted, fake bullshit that's stupid anyway. So even they're scripting it and they can't come up with a better storyline.
Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
Right. At least that was those people at first, at least when Dan was watching this, was mostly them just like going about their normal lives. All right.
No, they
Back
still
then,
made up shit.
yes,
they
but-
still made up shit.
Right. But then fast forward 10, 15 more years of running out of shit to make up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's even worse.
Well, then you had the Real Housewives of Atlanta, the Real
That's what I'm
Housewives
saying.
of Beverly Hills.
It's only gotten worse.
It's all nonsense. It's all
right.
nonsense.
When you watch that shit, it's like, yeah, maybe we are going to have a depression. Maybe society is just so soft that they think these are the things that are the trials of our lives. Is, oh, I can't talk to that lady. She snubbed me at a party.
Well, let me tell you something. Since you don't have, like, my niece is 23 now.
Yeah.
The things she thinks are important are literally mimicking what she sees on TV.
Right. Now go through a depression and then see what she thinks is important.
Oh, for sure. I would pray and hope that it would be a complete 180.
I'm sure it would.
But anyway, like the dumbest things ever. Like, oh, she said this and that, and that. Like, it's all like catty bullshit.
Of course.
But I think that's what human nature. Like, we're even if you have no problems, like the Real Housewives, they have no problems. They're all rich.
They still have problems.
They're all
They
rich.
have no real serious problems.
That's what I mean. They have no problem. They have no real problems.
They have no marbles.
Yeah, you have no marbles.
Do you know what that's from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was from Major League.
Major League 2.
Whatever. Yeah, with Joe Boo. No, that was Major.
He's in the second one too, and it was the Japanese guy
Yep.
on the team in the second one.
Tell him he has
Who's
no
telling
balls.
he's telling Serrano that he has no marbles.
Yep. And he would do the dance about his big nuts.
No marbles.
All right, anyway.
Big nuts like Dan Campbell has big nuts.
Dan Campbell's nuts are gigantic. I don't think they would fit in your basement.
No,
They're just way too big.
he could not fit in my house.
If anybody doesn't know who Dan Campbell is, he's the coach of the
just
Detroit
Google
Lions.
Dan Campbell big balls.
Yeah, and Detroit Lions. There you go.
You don't even have to Google Detroit Lions.
He carries them around in a
Show him
wheelbarrow.
the meme.
Yeah. Wheelbarrow. Carries them around in a
Don't
wheelbarrow.
hold it too close to the screen. I'll just zoom it in and post.
Yeah, yes you will.
Because if you hold it too close to the screen, then the camera can get out of focus.
yeah, whatever you said.
Wah wah wah.
Fum, fum, fum.
I feel like we're real official podcast now because I can do this.
There you go.
That's a meme with the Detroit Lions football coach
Because he goes it on. He does.
because he makes all the calls that somebody with giant balls would make.
Yep, he goes for it on fourth down.
Okay, but we should wrap this podcast up.
I really could talk about what I think everybody should be doing right now, but I
But
think
that's
everybody.
not.
I think
that's
everybody.
not what we're doing here.
I know, but I think the smart thing for everybody, stop it. The smart thing for everybody to do, pay off all your debts, get out of interest, and
Why?
then
That's silly
save your money.
because the government's going to wash away all the debt. You should
Stop
be
it.
racking
Stop
up debt.
it. No,
Rack it up.
no.
Rack it up.
No.
It's going to mean
Listen,
nothing. If
listen.
currency gets so inflated, then you can pay your debt back
This is why George is
with
wrong.
pennies on the dollar.
This is why George is wrong.
So look at World War II.
The
after
difference
World War
is-
II.
the difference
Or after
is-
World War One.
The difference is,
The difference is.
if you have a bunch of cash stockpiled, that means you can invest.
No. If you have a bunch of cash
if you're-
stockpiled
if
and
you
cash
have no
becomes
cash-
worthless.
Hold on. If you have no cash and you're just hoping the government washes away your debt, you're still going to be broke as shit.
Right.
So instead,
but if you
can
have a bunch of
invest-
cash and cash isn't worth anything,
you can still
you're
invest in
gonna
a bunch of companies.
No, because it's not going to be worth anything.
Doesn't matter. You can still invest.
Don't do that then. If you really think shit's going to go to hell, buy crypto or gold.
Nope.
Don't fucking
Do you know
store
who owns
cash.
the most gold? Or I'm sorry. Do you know who owns the most crypto in the world?
Elon Musk.
No, the U.S. government.
Oh, because they seized that Bitcoin.
1.6 million coins.
Yeah.
So they'll just watch that bitch go up and then sell everything and crash that market too.
They wouldn't crash it.
That would crash it.
You can crash it.
It would 100% crash it. Because then all of a sudden you have a deficit where the value
and
of
then
the
you'll
coin
find
goes
out
up.
that Nancy Pelosi and her husband bought
Owns most of
Bitcoin, sold Bitcoin right before that.
All the companies that mine it, at least, like Riot and Hut and whatever the hell.
Anyway, the point is, think
US
about
government.
after World War One, right? In Germany, and it took a wheelbarrow full of cash to buy a loaf of bread.
Yep. I think he said
So
like $1 trillion.
stockpiling cash doesn't work if that's what happens.
Well, if
You
that-
should be better off having gold because it didn't take a wheelbarrow of gold to buy a loaf of bread.
I didn't say cash.
You said cash.
You could still have it in the bank.
Rewind. Go to the tape. What do you say? He said cash.
I mean, in the bank.
You mean assets.
Assets. But
Have some kind of assets. I like my assets to shoot stuff.
I like my assets to shoot stuff too. But I diversify my assets.
Yeah. Shoot stuff. Go into guns that shoot stuff.
Shiny stuff.
Shiny stuff. Pretty stuff.
Yep. Rubies, sapphires, diamonds.
So, moral of the story is if shit goes to hell, rob Scott's house.
You good luck getting in. That's the problem.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Thanks
Thanks
very
for
much.
watching.
Appreciate it.
Hard times can make for hard people. And hard people make things go better.
And they make good times.
But
Hard men make good times.
Dan's right in saying that you want to be in the silk slippers on the gradual slope down.
Yes.
And maybe that's where we're at. Or maybe it's not gradual.
Or but you see, this is something that Dan has said that, like wooden shoes going upstairs, silk slippers coming down.
Right.
And he said he would rather be in the silk
Yeah.
slipper stage. But what if that's cyclical? So what if you
Well,
go?
yeah.
wooden shoes up, silk.
Well, that's what he said.
Silk slippers down.
Yeah.
But he doesn't say.
But it's not cyclical in the for each individual empire.
No.
Which is when he's
That's
talking about the
thing.
silk slippers.
So he's talking about the
But
Persian
for
Empire going up
humans-
and
but
then
for-
coming down.
But for humans, it's cyclical. But an individual empire, it might not be.
So you know what that means, George? If we're going by the fourth turning is here,
Yes.
you and I, our generation, which would be, I'm sorry, George, you're a millennial. Mm-hmm. You're an old millennial. You're
Which
still a
is the
millennial.
best millennials because it's the most like Gen X's.
Correct.
So according to the fourth turning, I'm the very first millennials, which are the most like Gen Xers.
Correct. So we are still going to be the wooden slippers, the wooden shoes going up once we see the bottom of the crash. Once we see the end of the fourth turning. Yes. Because
That analogy doesn't work good for fourth turning.
the hell it doesn't.
It doesn't.
The hell it doesn't. That's
Because
exactly
really
what they say.
we are is we had the silk slippers like crazy.
No, the silk slippers are millennial.
The 1980s, growing up in the 1990s, those were silk slippers.
No, the silk slippers.
Are you effing kidding me? The best time to be alive was probably the 1980s
We
or the
weren't old
1990s.
enough.
Fuck yeah, we had the easiest childhood because of that.
I think
Yeah,
Gen
dude.
Z has it way easier.
They'll tell you no, their parents all sucked. Right? That's what Gen Z will tell you. All right?
That's what they say.
And
Most of them aren't working.
no. So if you get to the fourth turning, his argument there is the millennials are the soft ones.
I disagree.
Come on, dude.
I disagree.
Think about a 30-year-old right now. Is that a hard person most likely? No. They didn't grow up with the Cold War. We barely did. We really didn't. But they didn't have anything. They grew up in times that were so there was no nuclear threat.
Some of us.
Yeah, that's the thing with all of this, right?
Yeah.
They're all generalizations. People with different situations, family setups, and all kinds of things. There's no, it's just, these are generalizations.
Sure. I'm
Right.
just saying, like, I would assume that we are the elders that are going to pull us out of the bullshit.
Oh, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying don't say we didn't have silk slippers on because we sure as shit did.
I don't think we
Yeah.
had it any much better or different, or any much better or worse, hold on, than people in the 1950s.
They didn't have Nintendo.
They didn't need it.
They didn't
They
have
all had
internet.
cars.
They didn't have porn.
They didn't. Yes, they did.
Yeah, crappy magazines.
Well, it's
What did you grow up with?
doesn't matter what I grew up
As
with.
soon as you hit high school, it was the internet.
Yeah.
And you could see anything you wanted to see whenever you wanted.
It took a long time
quick.
to download.
Yes, but you could download it.
Yeah. LimeWire.
Think about that,
Share.
right? Music, too.
Napster.
Right? Like, we were the start.
I remember songs
Of the
taking.
internet.
No, wait a minute.
Yeah, dude.
I remember songs taking 30 minutes to download. 1 3-minute song.
Right.
30 minutes.
But you didn't have to sit in front of your radio all day.
Oh,
so when the DJ played your song you like, you could press record
We did that too. I did that too.
for like a year.
No, I did. I started making my own mixtapes at like 10.
Yeah, and then you had a CD burner by what, 15?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's still 5 years of making
not
my
exactly-
own.
not exactly hard.
5 years of making mixtapes. If anybody doesn't know what that is, you're way too young.
It's not. The point is, it was cushy. In general, we didn't have any famines, right? We didn't have a 25% depression, unemployment,
True.
depression.
100%.
We didn't have a war.
Yes, we did. We had
Do not tell
September
me.
11th.
Yeah, okay. I was in college for that.
I wasn't. I was in high school.
Barely.
No, it was
That was your
junior,
senior year.
Junior,
Senior year.
senior year. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then 11 or 12 years of war after that.
Yeah, but not World War II.
No.
Not even Korea or
Not even
or-
close to Vietnam.
or Vietnam.
no.
It was our guys going over there and just wiping the floor with them because our technological advantage was so high.
Yeah.
It's a different thing than World War II or World War One.
Sure.
We have not had hard times in America in forever, And that's probably why you see so many soft, purple-haired,
Almost 100 years.
gender-focused motherfuckers.
Well, because
Right? You could not focus on this stuff if you had real problems.
You know what?
If you were worried about where your food came from.
Hold on. George, you're right. You're right. But because of the Great Depression and sleeper cells from...
Maybe.
No, 100%.
Well, probably.
Plants and academia
Sure.
putting this crap into
Sure.
the curriculum
Right.
and then expanding on it.
Right.
This is why, same thing. Because of the Great Depression, we are seeing shit
But
like
that
this
wasn't
today.
because of the Great Depression. That was because of the Cold War.
Yeah, well, the Great
And so did the-
without
does
the
the-
Great Depression, did you have World War II?
Yeah, but then without World War I, did you have the Great Depression? So you could go back to without the Revolution, would you have had the Civil War? Without the Civil War, would you have had World War I? It all ties together.
You would have had the Civil War. I mean, you would have had World War I.
But would America have been involved? Who knows?
Possibly.
We have no idea.
No, we don't. But
All of these things are just, yes, history always builds on itself.
sure.
Always.
Yeah.
And that's why we like to take things out of its historical context and examine it in a vacuum. But we also need to look at things in the actual context.
The other thing I would blame when you want to talk about soft people or people that might be not mentally well, I think a lot of that has to do with federally defunding mental institutions.
That is a thing that I think is not great. And I think it does lead to a lot of our problems. But I don't think it leads to all the gender and trans and all that bullshit.
Have you talked to some people that...
Yes, but those people are in a cult. They're
Sure.
not. They would not have been in a mental institution in the 60s.
Yeah, but if you talk to them now, they think you and I are in a cult.
Right.
The
Yeah, but-
Republican MAGA cult.
But I'm not Republican anyway. And
Neither am I.
And the point is,
I'm an independent. We're both independents.
just because they would think that and we would think the opposite doesn't mean that one of us isn't right.
I agree.
Right?
But they don't see it that way.
Of course they don't. But that doesn't matter.
That's the point I'm trying to make.
There is truth. There is objective truth.
Sure.
Right? There's a difference between somebody who would be in a mental institution and somebody who's just a cult member who's captured by an ideology.
The blue hair, the purple hair,
That's
the face tattoos.
ideological bullshit.
Sure.
Okay. It's virtue signaling that they're part of the team that they want to be seen as being a part of.
Yep.
Okay. And it's funny because when I was talking to Josh for the debate that he hasn't aired yet that's going to come out for his podcast, I mentioned this. I was like, this shows you how easy times are because we focus on stuff that doesn't matter, like all this woke crap and this gender stuff. And he's like, or pronouns. He's like, well, no, that can be a matter of life and death for trans people. I'm like, no,
It's not.
no, it's not, because if somebody calls you the wrong pronoun, you don't starve. If somebody calls you the wrong pronoun, you don't have a heart attack,
Yeah.
right? You don't die.
If
All
you,
it is if you're that soft where it hurts you that much, that proves my point,
Yep.
right? It proves my point. If some idiot at the mall or at Menards confuses me for a woman, what the fuck do I care?
You shouldn't.
I don't look like a woman. If he's confused, I'm like, man, maybe this guy's got some bad eyesight or maybe he's not well.
Yeah, maybe.
But I
so.
don't care.
No, and why would you?
Because
I mean, it
if
doesn't-
you need other people to affirm your identity, are you really that confident in your identity?
Of course
No.
not.
It's a sign of how soft people are that is a thing that they say is life and death.
Well, that's the dumbest thing I've ever
Of
heard.
course.
Don't tell me stuff like that. I don't wanna hear stuff like that.
But that's something you hear all the time. Gender affirming care is health care. It is life-saving treatment.
No, it's not.
They say that though.
But yeah, but then
Of course it's not.
I can show you. You can go to pubmed.org and you can start looking at how many people.
We're not having this argument.
I know we're
'cause
not.
We
We're not.
both agree.
No,
It's
no, no.
nonsense.
But for anybody listening, go to pubmed.org and look into how many people detransition and how much damage it's caused to people.
Oh,
huge
crazy.
numbers. Huge numbers of people.
Crazy.
They never feel right. Some doctor told them you're going to feel normal. Some therapist said you're going to be, life's going to be perfect.
Dude, it's like treating anorexia by telling the people that they really are fat.
Yeah, that's
That's what it is.
100%.
It's crazy. But if you tell that to people who have bought in, you're a bigot.
Or telling
Because
telling
you're not
bulimics to eat
affirming,
more.
You're not affirming what they think, and that is endangering their health.
Yeah,
And you know what? That proves my point that they're soft.
sure. Oh yeah.
Because you could say whatever the fuck you want to me, and it's just words, man. Words are not violence. The fact that there are a whole generation of kids that will try to tell you that words are violence proves how soft they are.
Hold on.
They clearly haven't been effing punched.
And then hold on. And then 15 of them will gang beat one dude and kill him. Did you see that?
But the point is, I don't
That's still
like,
soft.
But I don't like those analogies because we don't have video evidence of those kids saying words are violence first before they beat the
No,
kid
that's
up.
true. That's
Right.
true.
So we're
But
just
you can't
assuming
say
this about
both.
the gender.
But you
Right.
can't say words are
But the
violence
point
and
is,
then actually kill
The
somebody by
people who
beating
say
them to death.
words are violence don't know what real violence is. They obviously haven't learned history. Right? Or they would know what, oh no, real violence is rape and plunder and rape and all the crap that humans have done to each other throughout history.
Or beating somebody to death.
It's sure, yeah, exactly. It's sure not saying calling somebody a dude when they think they're a chick.
Yeah.
That's just not violent,
I know.
right?
You're not
even
I'm
looking
not
in his
disagreeing.
face and
You know
saying you're a dude is not violence. Even looking him in the face and saying "fuck you" is not violence.
No.
It's not.
Punching them in the face.
That's
is
violence.
Yeah. Well,
Words are not.
You
and
can't-
words can hurt, but what you're supposed to teach kids is to not let them hurt, not to lean into it and be victims.
we're just not fucking.
You know what I
like,
tell?
Who cares?
You know what
they-
I tell my kids? I say, don't let other people hurt your feelings.
You know what a friend of mine says? Good friend. Consider the source.
I say, feelings are information, not instruction.
Good
All
idea.
right.
I like that.
And facts don't care about your feelings is Ben Shapiro, and he nailed that.
Yep.
It's just 100% right.
Yep.
All right. But
Anyway, let's not be
Don't-
soft.
don't give people the ability to control your feelings. When you say that hurt my feelings, you're giving them power over you.
Oh, for sure.
That's dumb as shit. I tell my kids, don't say that. Don't say that hurt my feelings. Say stop being mean. Just say stop being mean. Somebody's bullying you, being mean. Tell them stop being mean. Don't say, oh, you hurt my feelings, because don't let your feelings feel hurt because somebody's being a jackass.
I'm going to change that
Get
for my kid.
tougher.
Just so you know. My kid's going to say something different.
Your kid's gonna stab a bitch.
No, my kid's going to say, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, that's fair. My kids, I tell them to say stop being mean.
Your kids are too nice. Except your youngest. She's an animal.
Yeah, but your daughter's kind of soft.
I know she is.
Yeah. And
Until she figures out she's not.
I don't know, dude. I've met her
Yeah, I know.
relatives,
She's a big kid, though.
but Evelyn's gigantic, and she's the softest one of my kids.
Which doesn't make any... I'm going to have to toughen her
Because
up.
that's just how life is.
That's it. Kickboxing for Vita. Let's go.
Size is not a marker for toughness.
No.
It's
But-
just not.
but it
in
makes
fact,
it makes the fight
oftentimes
a little
the
easy.
people being bigger don't have to be tough.
Yeah.
That's why you got so many short people with Napoleonic complexes,
yeah, but
right?
girls don't-
because they had to be tough because they were short.
Girls don't count in that.
Yeah, maybe.
Because they're just vicious.
To other girls, they can be, but Evelyn's never been vicious to a soul in her life.
You don't know that for a fact.
Shit, yeah, I do.
You don't know that.
I will give you $1 million if you can find somebody that said Evelyn did something actually vicious. There's just no way. And that's because she's soft. All right.
Challenge accepted.
It's just not, and that's not to say that that's good or bad. I don't put a value on it. This is rambling.
Anyway, yeah, sorry guys.
Don't be soft.
Be a complete unit.
Get tough,
Yup.
because
Who's
it's
going to
better-
carry the boats?
Who's gonna carry the boats? I'm gonna cut in a clip of
David
that
Goggins.
clip of
Oh
Goggins.
yeah.
Who's gonna carry the boats? Is it you?
Is it me?
It's probably not Scott.
It's not going to
I'm
be
not
George.
gonna lie.
No, 100% it's not
There's
George.
a better chance that it's gonna be me because your ass would be running away like I'm not carrying that shit, and you'd be gone, and I'd be like, fine, I'll carry the damn thing.
I think it's the exact opposite.
No way.
100%.
No, you'd be like, I've got other shit to do.
Uh-huh.
I'd be like, fine, you fuckers, I'll carry them.
I got a company.
Yeah, that's what you'd say. I got to carry the boats. Anyway, check the link in the description for the Talking Hardcore chat in Hardcore History Discord. Also, check out our supporting sponsor, Ace Industrial Solutions. Sorry, the owner's kind of a dick, but otherwise the company's great. They do great work. The floor in my basement looks amazing. They did that. They do all kinds of contracting stuff. But the owner's just a little bit of an ass.
Yeah, sure.
Would you agree?
Yeah, and don't forget to check out the older episodes of Hardcore History by Dan Carlin.
They're also at the link in the description.
Highly recommend. Especially this episode. And hopefully we can get. We need an economist on here one time.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Love to talk to an economist.
Okay, you start looking for ones, and we'll start emailing them on Twitter and shit.
Perfect. Let's
also,
do that.
if any of you are or know an economist that would like to come on the podcast, please hit us up.
Like an actual economist.
Yeah, or at least
Arnold Schwarzenegger's an economist. 100% Arnold
all right.
Schwarzenegger.
We're gonna let you go now.
No, don't
Thanks,
Google
people.
that. I'm telling you, it's right.
Okay.
Yep.
Have a good night.